Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to talk about the Jesse Livermore Accumulation Cylinder again, because I think we're getting to an important, I'll say, point where I'm starting to see this pattern all over the place in a lot of the energy sectors. Energy sectors being uranium, energy service, oil and natural gas. And I think there's still a lot of opportunity there. I think we're at a critical point. And I think maybe that we're on the precipice of a very big move. Again, I don't know for sure. It's not meant to be financial advice or anything like that. I'm just sharing my opinion, showing you guys what could potentially be an accumulation cylinders that were basically right at kind of the ideal accumulation point. And I talk about this a lot on the Finding-Value, the membership and the website that we've got. I go over these patterns. I look at the fractals. I look at how large the fractals are, and a lot of the companies that I own and share on that website are the ones that I think will have just massively large moves in the future, based off the fractals and the patterns. And obviously, I look at the fundamentals of the companies. I also look at the. It also kind of tells us where we're at in this bull market as well. It's not just that it has the pattern. It's everything intertwined together. I'm a hybrid. I'm a hybrid fundamental. I look at the market conditions, ratios. I look at valuations of things. And I look at technical analysis. I look at everything. I get very drawn to the technical analysis because it can give you further confidence of where we are in the bull market. It can help you in making determinations of buying and selling based off of patterns. And patterns are created by the herd or humans interacting with each other and creating these patterns. We're going to go over one of the patterns that I think is very powerful. I think it provides a lot of insight of where we're at in the bull market. And I think that it can give you the confidence to really be sure of where you're buying. Because what's difficult for a lot of newer investors is they always question, is this a good buy and why? And a lot of people give narratives, and I don't like the narrative game. I really like technical analysis because it basically shows you what the people are doing, where their money is going, how they're voting. It's not a narrative or story. You can see how they're positioning based off of the patterns. So we're going to go over the Jesse Livermore pattern. I'm going to describe what it looks like. We're going to mark one up together. And this is from the last bull market. This is just a small cap energy service company. So let's take a look at it. Let's dive in here and I'll give you my financial opinion. So this is the Jesse Livermore accumulation cylinder I have in this photo here. What it is you get this accumulation cylinder with widening mouth. That's the beginning of a move. So when you look at this from a holistic perspective, generally what happens is you get some sort of downtrend. So you get a downtrend in the beginning of it. It kind of comes down or it's basing out. And after that base down here, that's the base down here, you get this accumulation cylinder on some of these companies. And some of them are very apparent. And to know what this accumulation cylinder looks like and what it is a huge advantage for people. So if I were to kind of zoom in on this, and I'm going to zoom in just on the accumulation cylinder here. So there's the accumulation cylinder here. The way that we mark this up is you look at the beginning of it. It's 1, 2, 3. Then you get a 4 and a 5. And then you get the peak here, 6, and then you get a 7 on the bottom. And that is the cylinder, the accumulation cylinder of people. So this pattern's created when people interact with each other and they're accumulating a stock. It could be institutional investors, it could be retail investors, it could be the combination of all of those things. Generally, this is right off of a base here. So this is a basing pattern that kind of goes sideways. It could be a double booty bottom. It could be some sort of wedge formation that develops where it kind of does like a wedge like that and then breaks to the upside. There's a bunch of different bottoming patterns that you can get. It could be an inverted head and shoulders, which is basically this type of pattern. And then you get this accumulation pattern that basically occurs, and then you break up to the upside and run massively. So that's kind of how it all works. You get this basing pattern, you get an accumulation zone, and then after it, if we were to kind of look here and see what that looks like, there's your run up. If we were to mark this up together, point number 8, somewhere in the middle here, and you usually get this kind of pause here. What that generally creates a lot of the times is a chart that looks something like this. And it pauses here and you get kind of a move like that. So that's where we're at. 8, 9 is up here, 10 is the ultimate peak. They can be real close together. So usually the way that we call this is kind of the Batman pattern. So it kind of comes up as a peak, it comes up and does that. That's exactly what this did on a shorter time frame, because I'm kind of zoomed out a little bit just to make this look easier. There's 10, 11's down here, 12's here, and then it goes down to 13, 14 as we go back down. So that is the full cycle of a Jesse Livermore accumulation cylinder with the run up and the drawdown and pullback. A topping pattern looks similar to this on a lot of the times. So sometimes you call it a Batman pattern, sometimes you call it these other patterns, but that's the full cycle move of this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pattern here, and I'm going to copy this pattern right there. I'm going to hit Control C. I'm going to copy the accumulation cylinder, and we're going to look for other companies that have this cylinder today, and I'll show you what that looks like. So let's look real quick, and I'm gonna try to get some more cylinders here for you guys of what are occurring today. Yeah, so I grabbed another chart, and I'm gonna use a chart that everyone kind of knows. I'll disclose this chart. It's Cameco, CCJ. It's a uranium company. It's one of the larger uranium companies. They are a producer, so it's one that we can use. That's kind of a leader for uranium. And I know what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what the Livermore cylinder looks like. We had a Livermore cylinder last bull market, and we're basically developing one this bull market as well. I also overlaid, just for the heck of it, this fractal of last bull market and compared it to this fractal coming up, just to show you potentially how big this could be. Again, it's not meant to be a price projection. I'm just showing you how the last bull market and this bull market have similarities. This bull market here occurred during a credit expansion phase in real estate. This bull market here also started with a credit expansion phase of real estate. And this here was between those credit expansions of real estate, where we were in a disinflation period and a recovery phase of real estate, just an FYI. So looking at this, kind of looking back, I'm gonna go to a daily here. I'm gonna kind of scroll on over and look for, hopefully this thing can keep up here. There we go. So this is the last bull market for Cameco. And this is the accumulation cylinder. Remember that cylinder that we talked about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And here's one thing I also want you guys to understand as well. This here doesn't have to be, bottom unaligned or anything. Like if I were to take this bottom piece here, not that one, but okay, I want the line. There we go. So if I were to take this and I were to like draw a trend line, some people would say this is a breakout to the downside and it's going to go lower. That's not it. The way this thing lines up, it doesn't matter how it hits. It's an accumulation cylinder. It's not perfect. The more I learn of technical analysis and looking past the chart of 3 hit lines, 2 hit lines, the trend line, I'm looking for patterns and fractals more so than I have before. I'm going to take that pattern that I copied. Remember, I copied it from that last energy service company, and I copied that, which is not that one, but this one, that one. I copied this so we can kind of overlay it on this chart here. And what we're going to see is a similarity. Now, I'm not concerned that it's perfect. What I'm concerned with is how it kind of lines up, generally speaking. And So if I were to kind of align this up here, and I know it's not going to align perfect, so just, don't worry about it. What I'm looking for is, does this thing kind of match up? The answer is yes, it does. 4 and 5 is this guy, 4 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 is here. That's this guy here, but it's just offset, which doesn't matter. And then the pullback is basically the same pullback. You get this hump there, you get the hump here. It's the same thing. It's generally the same type of pattern, just stretched out, squeezed up in certain areas. And it's a leading accumulation cylinder back in the 2000s, early 2000s, of this thing going quite crazy. So what I did, just for the heck of it, because they both have the accumulation cylinder, I grabbed this guy here, the entire fractal, and put it onto the new one. And you can see the new one. This is also which is very positive here. We've got a declining wedge through that real estate cycle of the disinflationary type movement. And then on the back end, we've got another accumulation cylinder. So the accumulation cylinder here started, pretty early in the bull market of commodities. Same with this one. I would say 2019 is kind of early, but it started in 2020 and onward. If I overlay, this is the fractal of the last bull market, the blue line here. If I overlay this, explode it out, so basically the peak is here and the bottom is where it's at, and it may be off a little bit. It's not meant to be perfect. It's kind of hard to blow this thing up. So let's look at how big this potential bull market could be for Cameco. And again, guys, this isn't a projection, but look at this thing. This gets pretty ridiculous. I've got like $300 something. Maybe it gets up there, maybe it doesn't. Maybe I don't have it aligned exactly right, so maybe it's down. Maybe it's 300 instead of 340 or whatever it is. But the fractal does line up, and this could be something of what it looks like, and maybe it ends out in 2027. It's just a guess here. But it looks like we could have a pretty big run. And if you were to look to see where the fractal is of the current bull market, there's your current bull market, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it looks like we're already starting to run up. So, we could be underway for a big move in a lot of these commodity companies. And Cameco has this, it has Livermore cylinder here, and it looks fantastic. So, and we're already starting to break to the upside here. So again, this doesn't mean that it's going to be immediate. It doesn't mean it's going to go straight higher, but I think what it means is that we're going to see higher highs and higher lows over time. And we're still going to get pullbacks. That's all going to happen. We're not going to be immune to it. But I noticed this pattern, and it looks really good. Another thing that I like to do is I don't just focus on the big companies. I focus on all the companies in the sector. I look at large companies, small companies. I look at the fractal size. The fractal size is the big. From here to the tip to the bottom, it's kind of measurements, because Fibonacci sequences, basically it's looking at the genetics of the stock, and the genetics of the stock, the bigger it is, the bigger the potential move. But one thing, kind of looking here is we've got the basing pattern, and then we've got that accumulation cylinder that is occurring right after it. And this is a uranium exploration company. So when I look at this and I were to kind of write this down, really it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 7. And then usually when you get that fractal there, right? Here's the fractal that we had from that energy service company. If I were to kind of just lay this in there, you can see that this one is blowing up quite a bit. It's a big fractal. This guy's this still double humps that. This guy's this guy. And then this pattern here, if I were to focus on just that pattern, you can see it if I kind of blow it up, and it looks like that. Because it just gets stretched and squeezed. So if you were to look at this, you can see how that one is that lead-in pattern, and then we usually kind of go and run up from there. So the pattern's there, it all exists. And this is another example of a Jesse Livermore accumulation cylinder and where we're at in this bull market here. So, I mean, this thing looks absolutely fantastic for a move higher. And I know people get worried. They say, well, we've peaked here, it's going down. And I'm like, you guys are missing the big picture view here. This is a huge accumulation cylinder, and it's not just occurring in one of the companies. It's occurring across 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different companies. So I think what needs to happen is people need to relax, they need to chill out, and really start to figure out the fractals and patterns and identify those things. Now, will this just, moon rocket higher? I don't know. We're going to have to find out and see how long this thing takes. But I can tell you this, it sure looks really good to me. And with CCJ already taken off to the upside, that's kind of the leader. I'm looking at some of these other companies as laggards, and I'm starting to share what I know and what I'm finding out with everyone on the website. So at least they've got, firsthand information on a lot of this stuff. So here I grabbed another company just to show you guys it's also happening in oil and natural gas exploration production companies. This is another company that I follow, that I'm heavily invested in. And if I were to overlay that chart, oops. If I want to overlay that chart that I grabbed, you can see that this thing, it overlays very well. And you can see, it's not, well, it is pretty much nuts on. This one here is that guy there. This guy here is this one here. And it's not aligned perfectly like the last one, but it's very close in how this thing is all aligned. And if I were to kind of align it here and blow it way up like this, and just to show you guys, like, this pattern is this guy here. And we are basically like at the end of this pattern almost, where we could potentially be moving higher at any second. If you were to look at how this thing scribes that pattern out and match it up perfectly. So this one also is in a accumulation cylinder that people may not be identifying. I'm also seeing it in a bunch of other oil and natural gas companies and energy service companies. It's not just this one. So we're seeing it across the board of a bunch of different commodity companies, especially in energy is where I'm seeing it. And there's a lot of, I'll say, opportunities in this market to make a bunch of money. So, when I'm looking at these things, obviously I'm buying buying the crap out of all these companies that have these patterns, that have good fundamentals. I'm measuring the fractals. The fractals are repeating patterns that happen over and over on different time frames, like the accumulation cylinders that we saw in the mid-2000s. I'm looking for accumulation cylinders on a lot of these other companies. And then I'm looking at the fundamentals. Is their production growing? How are they doing on their projects? And then I look for the fractal sizes, because generally, if you've got a larger fractal, bigger move of the accumulation should lead to a larger move after the accumulation zone. I know that doesn't happen all the time, though. It's not 100%, but to know that and kind of get exposure to a lot of those companies that have these big fractals, I think's pretty smart to do, because the moves on the back end could be, just massive, But these are some of the setups that I'm seeing out in the market. They are accumulation cylinders, and I think they look really good, and I'm getting real excited for what's coming. And they're right at the spot where I'd actually be accumulating right now. So they're right there, ready to go. All right, guys, that's all I've got for today. Give me a thumb up for the content, subscribe to the channel, and if you guys have any interest, you can definitely sign up for the website to see what these companies are and how big these moves can be. All right, guys, thanks for listening. This is Finding Value.